Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this is your Backstage episode of, what do they call that show? Right Angle. This is something that is provided only for our members, and some of our members tell us this is actually the best show of the week, and so because it's the best show of the week, we make sure that the smallest possible number of humans around the world can see this. And
it's only fair.
It really is kind of intimidating when you hear people say that, because this is the show that almost no forethought goes into. So
yeah, that's why it's strictly quarantined to reduce human suffering as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, if you're under self-quarantine right now, just stack up the last 4 years worth of Backstages and let them rip.
You can hit those archives at billwhittle.com, and that's what people like. Every once in a while, when we have a hiatus of some sort, people will then start dipping into the archives. I know, because then I get these emails that, pointing out to me things I said 4 years ago, or wondering why we don't remake a video that Bill did 10 years ago or something like that. And I'm like,
well, I'd like to say that our prediction rate on 50-50 type questions, our prediction rate is well above 20%.
Well, yeah.
That's a ballpark number there.
So
anyway,
like 22,
so what we
23.
What we're going to do is talk about the shows that we are planning to do for this week's episode of Right Angle. And by the way, I'm not going to count this as one of our promotional plugs, so to speak, for the Patriot Post, but I do want to make sure that our members have heard this. There's a really cool download that you can get from the Patriot Post. If you go to we'll provide a link in this description, but I think I can provide a link. You may have to go to a link in a previous video to get this. Anyway, Patriot Post has this really cool download when you subscribe, where you can get this Patriots primer on American liberty. And I've read parts of it and really enjoyed it, and I look forward to being able to complete the whole thing. But anyway, that's free if you subscribe to the Patriot Post. And literally, I'm just bringing this up because I think that our members would really enjoy it, and I hope you do.
I haven't seen that yet. I'll have to pull that up.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So if you go to like most episodes of Bill Whittle Now, or where most of our mentions of the Patriot Post are, but this week's episode that I host, I will make sure to do that as well. And so there'll be a link somewhere. It's kind of complicated because the links actually are based on the episodes we do, and so you can't get them messed up. So that's way too.
Oh my gosh!
What?
I'm so sorry.
Do you need a nap before you?
Yeah, I really did. I only had a cup and a half of coffee this morning. I usually have two or three on a right angle day, and I got so distracted. We've got the primary tonight. I'll be drunk blogging. I'm working on another piece for PJ, and I got so distracted. I didn't finish my second cup. I didn't have my third cup, and now here we are at noon, and I'm going. So it's nothing rude. It's nothing like that. I messed up this morning, and I feel terrible about it. I'll make myself a little shot of espresso after Backstage before we tape our regular segments.
Normally, when we get to like our second or third recording the afternoon, because frankly, afternoons, the people in the Hispanic cultures have it right. Afternoons
That's exactly right.
were meant for napping. And so you'll notice in some of our episodes, especially when we get to like the second or third episode that we record, that I start to have to expand my eyelids a lot and just kind of force myself. It's not because my colleagues are any more boring than they normally are, but literally I'm starting to doze off.
We can not only not afford those eye thing openers from A Clockwork Orange, we can't even afford the toothpicks that would be required to.
Are you kidding? We can't even afford to hire Malcolm McDowell for this stuff, and he'll do anything.
Oh my God! Yeah, he'll open a 7-Eleven.
Trivia question. This line comes from what movie, and by whom? Have you tried Staples?
Oh,
I know that. I know that.
Oh, it's an eye joke.
Is it? No. Is it Scrooge?
Yes, it is.
With Bill Murray.
Yes. There's this guy comes up and they're filming a Christmas special, and he's got this mouse in his hand, and he's like, I can't get the antlers because they're making the mouse look like a reindeer.
That's right.
I can't get the antlers to stay on the mouse. And Bill Murray looks at him and goes, Have you tried Staples?
Classic.
Anyway, so that's the kind of treatment we expect here, and that's the kind of treatment we dole out week after week. And with that introduction, Stephen Green, you're hosting 2 episodes this week. We'll give you first dibs. What would you like to talk about on Right Angle?
Well, I didn't know I had 2 episodes this week, but I am a machine. I
was going to protect you from that, from people knowing about that.
No. This is backstage. This is family. We let it all hang out here. I didn't know it was my week to do members, but again, I am a well-oiled content machine. Mm-hmm. And even before I'd had a chance to go, oh man, do I really have to do? I already had my headline selected for this week's lightning round. How about that?
Work like an animal.
Yeah.
That's
Between
what
that and
fracking
drunk
will get you.
logging, it's enough to make a man just get down and worship the man that we call old Steve Engine Green.
That's
Steam Engine
right.
Green, we call him.
Steam engine.
Anyway, these are, I've got a good one. And in one of them, it's so
Okay.
clever, it's even a twofer for Bill and Scott. So I'm really looking forward to this week's lightning round
Sweetness.
that I just found out about minutes ago. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, which I always do. So there we go. Do Not Disturb. And for
I have a problem because you can only set your phone, the audio is on Do Not Disturb. However, I still see my phone, and that disturbs me. Like there should be a button where you can say Do Not Disturb, and then you can't even see the phone.
you can't. It goes into a cloaking mode.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Samsung Galaxy S900 is going to have the cloaking device built in.
No doubt.
It's going to be
Okay, so one of them is this this new concept of a lightning round,
yes.
and then the other one is whence.
I thrill every time you say lightning round, Scott. Makes me so happy.
I don't think the term you're looking for is whence. I think the term you're looking for is what's. Once. WHACH. Watch.
Just the induced flop sweats. Warm my
Don't
dark
panic.
Bless
It
you.
was just a sneeze.
Was that a real sneeze?
Yeah, I'm over
It
the
was.
worst of that cold from last week. And by the way, it was a really nasty one. Not, coronavirus nasty or anything like that. But now my older son's got it. I had to keep him home from school today because he woke up with this wet hacking cough that was just awful. So hopefully he's going to be feeling better as quickly as I did.
Steve, just so you're forewarned, don't mention another thing about the coronavirus because we did the current episode of Bill Whittle Now on the coronavirus, and Bill talked for 35 minutes straight. So if you if you bring up that topic, things can get out of control.
I have to change my topic now. You guys go ahead.
I wasn't gonna do coronavirus. Although I did write a fun piece for our PJ Media VIP members yesterday. This scaremonger on MSNBC he's a virologist. He's a doctor, and he was totally panic mongering on MSNBC because. MSNBC. And like one of the first things out of his mouth on the segment was, well, we know 80% of the American population will live.
Oh, well, that's encouraging.
Thanks.
That is, you should simply go to jail for something like that.
Yeah. And then he says that the
not
mortality
pass go.
rate, and he's pulling these numbers out of his rear end. I went through, I pulled the numbers out of China and the cruise ship and all that. The mortality rate, he said the mortality rate for those who are most vulnerable, that is those with pre-existing respiratory issues and heart issues and people 70 and over, the mortality rate for them is going to reach 20%, which I did the math. And by his thing, we're going to have about 4.2 million dead Americans under this virus. But the thing is, that's assuming he's pulling these numbers out. It's assuming 100% infection rate. The actual infection rate on that.
That's right.
The actual infection rate on that cruise ship was 6%. And cruise ships,
It's a enclosed environment.
Yes.
That's right. When you hear flu numbers like that, that's assuming that every single person in America gets the flu.
Exactly. And this year's flu season was horrible, one of the worst on record. And the infection rate was somewhere between, and this is from the CDC. This is how wide their figures are. Somewhere between 33 million and 49 million.
10%.
Yeah. So
46,000 people died.
even if we assume the worst case infection rate of 15%, that's still 1/6 of the scare numbers this guy was peddling. And the fact is his mortality rates are completely wrong. If you're under 40, the mortality rate is 0.2%. 40 to 60, I think it's 1.38%, the next scale up, and it doesn't get serious, the 15% mortality rate, till you get up to ages 70 and up. So...
Well, let's talk about this, because this does impact what I was thinking I would do. Scott's right. I did a lot of yapping about coronavirus. And,
but it was great yapping. It was excellent yapping.
Thank you. What I would like to talk about, and I think the only way this segment works is if we stay out of the weeds of the coronavirus specifics. But I would like to talk about fear as a virus. And I'd like to talk about fear spreading through the population the way a virus does. I'd like to talk about this idea that a pandemic is an ancient, probably the deepest inbred fear that humans have of just about anything. I want to talk about the fact that so much of our society has been so healthy for so long that just to keep ourselves amused, virtually all of our entertainment is based on a worldwide pandemic now. Every single zombie movie is basically, when we talk about the zombie apocalypse, right? We're talking about everybody's dead except for me and 3 other guys. And I think that all of this is playing into this. It's giving fuel to the fear. And I'm curious to talk about fear spreading the way that a virus spreads. But if we get too much in the weed, now you can bring up things like that, but I don't want this to be about the mortality rate of COVID-19. I want this to be about how fear spreads and how we can stop it. What can be done to stop it? Because I think the things that you use to stop viruses can also be effective against fear.
Oh, absolutely.
I was hoping you'd go all the way and talk about the human species as a virus.
Oh, go full Agent Smith.
Go full Matrix. That's right.
Yeah. It seems you've been living.
Smell.
That's right. It's the smell.
Do you say it's the smell or it's the stink?
Yeah, it's the smell, I think.
I want to say it's the stink.
Really?
Stink would be much better.
I think he says it's the smell.
I think he does
but
too.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
The humans are like a virus. So anyway, that's...
Good, because that plays into something that I came up with for Instapunted this morning that I'd like to share with a much narrower audience.
Have you? Well, you're not going to get a much narrower audience than ours.
I know. We got Backstage. It's great.
That's right.
This is my favorite audience right here.
What was I? Have you ever seen the TV show? I don't even know where it aired because we only see things on streaming services, and so I don't know where they originate. But have you ever seen the TV show The Last Ship?
Yes. Adam Baldwin.
Yep.
Oh, was that who that was?
Yeah, and Rona Mitra. I've had a crush on her since I can't even tell you when. Long time.
But that's another one of those where like it's a virus that's wiped out everybody, and this is the last ship, and they're just sailing around. Like the whole situation for it. I think it would have been better as a sitcom, but we did watch it. Like we binged it. Like if think The Love Boat meets The Last Ship. I think that would be a great setup for us.
With Adam Baldwin as Captain Stubing.
That's right. Okay, so Steve, Bill just said his topic. Did you?
Yeah,
do your topic?
I actually need to tell you what my topic is. Yeah, we're having finally another drawdown in Afghanistan, and I want to talk about just getting the hell out already.
You've been talking about that for
19 years. Yeah, but it's getting serious now. What do we have? We're down to about 13,000 soldiers in country. 8,000, so the majority of them are involved in training, although I assume that if things were to hit rotating devices, that those guys would pick up rifles and be in the mix. And 5,000 are actual full-time combat troops doing their own counterterror thing or assisting the Afghan National Army when they need to. We've got, 2,400 American dead in that country after 19 years almost, 19,000 some odd injured. And we're no closer to accomplishing whatever it is we're supposed to accomplish. And I don't know what that was after we got rid of the Taliban. Do you?
Well, apparently we didn't get rid of them. We're making a peace deal with them.
I'm sorry, Al-Qaeda, not the Taliban.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We toppled the Taliban.
Now,
We proved
I
our
always
point.
forget.
We killed a bunch of Al-Qaeda.
When you're looking at the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, which one was shirts and which one was skins?
Actually, no, I think in that part of the world, it's beards and clean shaven.
There's like shirts and more shirts because they have multiple layers of shirts. You know, this brings up something, and we can mention this backstage. And I know I'm going to be seen as a cultural imperialist, but I was out in public the other day, which is something I don't do very often, and I saw this couple. Okay, so the guy is wearing an Abercrombie and Fitch logo T-shirt, where the logo takes up like the entire front of the shirt. Abercrombie and Fitch, which is a store, I'm told, a store whose advertising campaigns generally involve some degree of partial nudity. So he's wearing this shirt. With him is his lovely bride, who is wrapped head to toe almost in cloth. She is wearing, and I'm not sure I've got the right words, but she's got like the burqa with the hijab. She doesn't have the full facial covering with the Knight Rider eye slot.
I would have said Cylon, but I think I like yours better.
Cylon, that's the word I was looking for.
Those people get a lot more respect if a little laser would do
going
that.
back and forth. By your command.
If they
By your command.
If they could just work into, they're praying 5 times a day, maybe a 6th time where they could just stand there and go, beady, 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 beady. So, anyway,
10 years we've been doing this show. 11 years. That's our first Tweaky joke.
So this is horrible.
And our last.
But I couldn't help but wonder, okay, why does she have to do like the full-on conservative interpretation of Quranic garb? And he can walk around in jeans and an Abercrombie and Fitch T-shirt.
Because he's the man.
Because that is a genuine patriarchy, and that's why the left ignores it.
There you go.
I mean, I have seen other couples where they're both in what we would term religious garb or whatever, but typically no. Usually the guy looks like, he just stepped out of the Abercrombie and Fitch catalog, and the woman is virtually invisible.
Scotty, the reason that the men and the women in those Middle Eastern Islamic societies, I'm serious about this, look relatively similar, is because hot weather clothes are the long flowing gowns,
Yeah.
and you want to keep. If things were just a little cooler over there, the women would still be bundled head to toe. The guys would be running around in Speedos.
Well, yeah.
Wow, I did not need to picture that region wearing Speedos, Bill.
I don't blame you one little bit, but the whole thing is about control of women. Yeah. It's a nomadic desert society, and it's based on clans. And so if you're going to be providing protection for, this woman plus 15 children plus their 15 children, you better be damn sure it's your woman, it's your genetic line. That's why this religion is so crazed about protecting women as, just basically as bloodline containers.
Well, part of it is I thought maybe she's just more faithful than he is. Maybe he's kind of a secularist.
But there's no stricture against him. It doesn't exist. There's nothing in there that says he has to cover himself from head to foot. Yeah. It's just not there. They would never occur to them. This is about keeping the women under control. Because if you get a glimpse of a lock of hair, it's
all over.
Nobody knows what could happen after that.
You Randy Minks.
Randy Minks. I caught a glimpse of ankle.
Wasn't he a professional wrestler?
Randy Minks, yeah. He lost to Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, in I want to say 1977 or something.
I'm trying to remember who I just took that term from. I want to say it was Norm Macdonald, but I'm not sure. But I just heard some comedian. It might have even been Brian Regan's brother, who shamefully I can't remember his, Dennis Regan. It could have been him, but I'm not sure.
God, it must suck to be Dennis Regan. What an awful curse that must be.
he actually does like some of the same kinds of humor. Like he was talking about how stupid he was in kindergarten, and that was Brian Regan for years was talking about how stupid he was as a kid. And Dennis Regan has said on his first day of kindergarten, the teacher, he asked him something and he got the wrong answer or whatever. And the teacher came over and yelled at him and said, "Are you dense?" And he said, "No, it's Dennis, ma'am." So anyway, so I too have a topic for this week's episodes of Right Angle after that long diversion, which outlasts this actual content. There's a story in a website that is dubbed DallasCultureMap.com based on U.S. Census Bureau data. And this was apparently taken from the Census Bureau's website, but it was a new phenomenon of which I had not previously heard. Under the headline, "Dallas suffers from a bad case of job sprawl." Have you guys heard of job sprawl?
I hadn't heard of boar taint until I met you.
Boar taint and job sprawl have a lot in common. Job sprawl, and the thrust of this is that the jobs, and by the way, the Dallas area, especially the greater metro area, is just booming and growing. Oh, yeah. The jobs are not where they're supposed to be, because they're supposed to be where the people live who need jobs that pay more than they now make. And
I see. It's a distribution problem.
It is.
Not
it
how
requires
that
central
works.
control. If only there was somebody who could allocate jobs to the areas that needed them most.
And high-speed rail, apparently, for free.
Yet another failure of capitalism in the free market, the inability to distribute jobs where they're most needed.
It is low-income residents are hardest hit by the boom of jobs in, let's say, Plano, Frisco, the Colony, areas that are sort of the collar communities around Dallas, and that most of the poor people live in South Dallas, but that's not where the jobs are happening. And they can't go to where the jobs are happening because the average price of a home in Frisco is, I don't know, $335,000 or something like that. The main route, the Dallas North Tollway, if you can drive, you'd pay $175. What does this say? The main route between North and South is the Dallas North Tollway, where yearly tolls are estimated at $175 to $3,289, according to a study.
We've come a long way from the days when some of our poorest people would pack up what little they owned in a covered wagon and spend 2 years trekking across the country to try and make a better life for themselves, and maybe get killed by natives or weather or just malnutrition or whatever along the way. And now it's just, oh dear God, I might have to go to the other side of town to get a better paying job.
And look, we know what this is about.
Whiners.
No, we know what this is about. This is about a leftist realizing, like all of them are realizing, that their time is coming to an end, and it's coming to an end because people no longer have to live in cities in order to produce product in the information age economy. And if people are not living cheek to jowl, then the left has no control over them, and that's not allowed. That's why they're trying to zone suburbs into, you can no longer build single family houses in the suburbs. Now you have to build apartment complexes and increase the population density so that we have to have high speed rail. And then we can tell you how to handle your health care and all the rest of this stuff. It's a control issue, and they're losing, and there's no way they can win this because it's not a political issue. It's an economic issue. It's bigger than politics.
What's interesting, though, is where the left does have this kind of power, they still manage to screw things up because, of course, they do. In the San Francisco Bay Area, they want to have a Manhattan concentration of wealth, but they want to have suburban sprawl at the same time. And this is why nobody can afford to live there anymore, because nobody's allowed to build in a way that makes sense for that concentration of people and wealth in that small an area.
They want to maintain power amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Let's assume that if you're poor, you're probably not owning a house. You're probably renting, but you could. There's a difference in price between, in Dallas County, the average home is $240,000. In Collin County, which is where Frisco is, and Plano, one of the fastest growing communities, the average price of a home there is $335,000. Okay, so, but according to Rent Cafe, this story says, in the apartment market. Now, here's what's keeping you from getting a good job north of Dallas. In the apartment market, average rent in Dallas is $1,244 a month. But if you were to move into Plano to be closer to where the good jobs are, you'd have to jump that rent from $1,244 up to $1,349.
That's surely a joke. It's a misprint.
It says it here. It says the average rent in Plano is $1,349 versus Dallas at $1,244.
So $105 for a much better job.
I have had jobs in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills before I did this as an editor, and I could not afford to live in either Santa Monica or Beverly Hills, but I could afford to live in North Hollywood, and that meant I had to commute to work. And that, of course, is a crime against humanity, and plus white supremacy on top of it. So
patriarchy.
There you go.
I had always pictured you living in 74 Buick Roadmaster. I just figured when you were working.
Be awesome. With a licensed California vanity tag that said loaner on it.
Yeah. No, I built a shed on the back of my El Camino.
Just back off. So anyway, I just thought this is a problem. Okay, now, up until now, this will be 6 years in June that we have lived in Texas, okay?
Wow.
Seems like only yesterday. But up until now, one of the things that I would brag to people about, or really not brag because I didn't do anything, but just kind of celebrate about this area is how it's vibrant and growing, and there are more jobs and, more places where you can go to eat or go to see a movie. The other night, we went to the Andretti kart racing arcade facility that just is opening this month. And that's awesome. But anyway, so that's exciting. All this stuff is growing and building and all this stuff's happening around here. And yet the Census Bureau says we've got a problem with job sprawl. Oh, and a new other term, spatial inequality.
I'm so tired of these idiots.
No,
everything is wrong.
Idiots.
The economy is booming so badly that they're screaming for high paid workers. Like, we can't get enough high paid workers. We're going to have to pay them even more to get them to come here. And the left just has to trash this because they had nothing to do with it. And despite the best of their damn efforts, they couldn't stop it either. Screw these guys.
No, buddy, I'm telling you, you're going to see more and more and more of this. They've lost. They know they've lost. And now it's going to be, well, if we lose, we're going to burn the place down. They're going to give more and more and more ideologically
I think you need to stop baiting them to do that. I think.
I'm not. It's just, look, it's like me saying, hey, man, the barometric pressure has dropped, below 27 inches of mercury. And that's not baiting the hurricane. That's just telling you it's time for us to think about maybe moving inland a bit.
Yeah, but hurricanes don't respond to baiting and humans do.
Well, you haven't tried baiting a hurricane the way I have.
Where do you buy that hurricane bait?
Well, it's not. I don't bait hurricanes because that would be destructive. I defy them. That's what I do.
That's right.
And every summer during hurricane season, I go up to the shores of Nova Scotia and I stand there and I'm on a big rock and I say, I defy you, hurricane. And it's worked so far. So obviously I have some kind of powers that should be rewarded financially.
Well, we defy you to watch a half an hour of meandering, unplanned,
useless filler.
That's what makes it so good.
By the way, I got a call. I'm not going to say her name, but I think at least two of us are well familiar with this person. Got a call the other day, and she was asking me about something related to my other job. Anyway, and I said, are you going on the cruise? And she said she is. And Bill, I know you've already met her, so I know you'll be excited to have that reunion. But anyway, so we are continuing to look forward to that. If you haven't seen our views, or at least Bill's views on this whole COVID-19 situation, and all the way at the end of this 35-minute episode of Bill Whittle Now that we did, Unfearing COVID-19, I think, or Unfearing Coronavirus, we deal with that whole issue of the cruise. So if you're booked for the cruise, make sure you watch that video.
Hey, look, we're going until we hear from the cruise company that it's canceled.
Which I doubt.
What's that?
I said, which I doubt.
Which I doubt. I'm going, and Steve's going, and Scott's going, And as I mentioned on the COVID-19 episode yesterday, I got a text from my sister saying that forwarding me a text from my cousin, my Australian cousin, who's in quarantine trying to get back into Australia on a cruise ship. She had tested positive for COVID-19. Not only she tested positive for it, she had it. She actually came down with it. And she said it was a bad head cold for 2 days. And now she's stuck in a cruise ship with no toilet paper, and they're waiting 40 days to get back on shore now that she's had her flu-like symptoms. And so, you know.
So she's got no toilet paper. She's using one of those hand towels that they've folded into the shape of a swan.
What did the swan do to deserve that?
It's not a swan anymore.
It's a swab.
I am trying so hard to not make a black swan joke right now.
No, don't do
it. You know, this is. I'm glad nobody's watching because we really
because it would be real trouble if there were viewers.
You know what? Right behind the three of us right now. We are on our motorcycles coming to a stop, and behind the three of us is like this huge chain, this long trail of very confused sharks.
When my wife and I were discussing the other night about this, because the announcement had just come out from the State Department and said that, you know, they were encouraging Americans, and especially those in vulnerable groups like the elderly or the sick, to avoid cruise ships. And of course, we're well in advance of when this cruise is planned. Yeah. But I said, my immediate thought was, hey, we're going. We'll have the ship to ourselves. This will be awesome. I'm just like, hey, Captain, take it around the island another time.
Oh, man, a ship's captain taking requests. Would that be the ultimate spoiled cruise ever? Yeah.
So anyway, we're still looking forward to that, having fun, and there will be. I know some people have threatened karaoke. I hate karaoke, so we're just going to do a cappella.
Interesting that he's the only guy who can sing. Is the only one who hates. Yeah.
My singing voice can drop livestock.
You're the only guy who can sing, and you're the one who's anti-karaoke. That's
I hate karaoke on principles of liberty and conservatism.
Well, there you go. Now you make a fine point there.
Yeah, because karaoke forces you to sing at a pace that somebody else dictates that you don't even know when you get up there. And they throw those words at you like, say these words. And the way I sing is I make up the tune and the pacing as I go along. And if I don't know the words, I wing it.
Plus karaoke is racist against people who can't read.
It is. It is. I feel like when I'm in karaoke, I feel like I'm being dragged across a newly plowed field like a manure spreader. I just can't stop. You're like, no.
This has gone to some personal places that are kind of dark and fascinating.
That's why they have lifeboats on board those vessels, folks. That's
for karaoke
why there are lifeboats.
To escape karaoke. That's right. Women and children first. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this episode of Backstage. We thank you for your membership. Jeez. And we know this week we have some more new members, and we're grateful for their arrival. And let me just apologize in arrears for what you've just witnessed. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. We'll see you this week on Right Angle.